Trump just signed a $900 billion coronavirus bill relief bill. So stay tuned all the way to the end so you know all the benefits. If you're new to our channel, please hit subscribe down below. Click the bell for future notifications on our videos. Go ahead and smash the like button. Hi friends, welcome to Lawyer Up. This is your host, John Ting. I got some great news. You're getting some money. Now in this show, we're going to explain what exactly is part of the bill. Now, we don't have the full text of the bill, but we do have some highlights that we want to share with you. Number one, I want to tell you, I am not an accountant. I do not have any tax background, although I did take one tax law class in law school, but that does not give me any basis to explain any tax law, but we're here to share some points with you. Now, keep in mind the bill is over 5,500 pages, so we definitely did not go through every page, but I do hope the politicians actually went through it, although that's doubtful. Second thing I want to share is that President Trump wanted to provide, as he says, up $2,000 per person, adult. Throughout this past summer, this year, he did say he wanted to provide more than $600. As you may have heard last week, both chambers of Congress, the House and the Senate, had agreed to, on principle, on the bill. However, President Trump said he wanted to increase it to $2,000. Now, a week has passed, or before this past week, they had signed a continuing resolution to keep the government running. But today, the government would have shut down if President Trump did not sign this bill. So I'm sure there were some internal workings where Trump was pressured to sign this. Nevertheless, we're getting some money, right? Now, this is beneficial in two parts. One, stimulus money. Two, PPP. Now, as far as I understand it, you will receive some tax credits for the stimulus amount, for the $600 per person, and also for payroll purposes, the PPP. We'll go into detail next week when we have a guest expert who is a tax expert. That's not me. We'll ask our guests those questions. Now, if you have any questions for our tax expert, please drop them in the comment section below. We'll make sure to ask our expert those questions. Now, keep in mind, this is a $900 billion stimulus and PPP law. It's a lot of money, and it's not all going to our individual pockets or even the small business owners, but they have enacted added provisions to provide more protections to prevent any fraud. You know, the first bill that was passed in March and signed into law, there was a lot of fraud that occurred after that because there was not enough mechanisms to prevent that. And the banks didn't have the guidance that they needed from the federal government. No surprise there. But hey, you know, the government wanted to get the money to the people. Now, 9 months later, here we are again. Now, I understand 600 is not enough for many households. That is for sure. And they waited until the very last second. This happens every year. Every time Congress needs to get together to make sure the government does not shut down to pass the next budget, it comes to this point where they're fighting tooth and nail to make sure the public knows they're working very hard for your vote. Now, there are some provisions where there is a phase out in the dollar amount, depending on how much income you earned. From what I'm reading, it is $150,000 for married couples or joint filers. So your stimulus payment is reduced by $5 for every $100 you earn over that threshold. Now, if you're a single, then it's that amount, the threshold is $75,000. Now, just like last time, for stimulus money, you don't have to apply for anything. When you apply for something, that's for on the business side, for the payroll protection program, PPP. Now, keep those two categories separate. Now, everyone's $1 million question is, when are we going to get that money? And the Treasury Secretary said that it's going to come within a week. But do you really believe him? Point number two, the rent moratorium is still in place. It's been extended until the end of January 2021. Now, that's another great reason why President Trump had signed this into law. I don't know if that's his reason, but I would like to believe that he was doing some good there. And of course, practically speaking, I know that many tenants across the nation are still facing eviction for at least non-payment reasons. Number three, if you're unemployed, this act provides an additional $300 per week. This goes into the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. This also provides expanded coverage for those who are gig workers, contractors, and self-employed individuals. Now, keep in mind, even though they're adding an additional $300 per week, you still apply through the state. And everyone knows, everyone's had to suffer the challenges of applying to the state. And just because the government added $300 per week does not mean that you may qualify on the state level. So you might want to check those rules depending on your state. Especially by now, you may have gotten your job back, even if part-time or working half the hours, so that your state may have particular rules about that. About the rent, there is this allotment of $25 billion reserved for late payments and utility payments and for folks that owe back rent. We're going to look more closely at the bill to see how that can help you, practically speaking, if that goes in straight to your pocket individually or goes to the landlord. Number 4, student loans. There was no provision to help folks who have student loans. President-elect Biden did say that he wanted to wipe out a certain limit of student loans, so stay tuned for that in 2021. All right, now, in addition to the stimulus money, great news, right? There's also another great news about the PPP. Now, keep in mind, it is a more strict process, but the good thing is that there is going to be a simpler process to forgive the PP money. The first thing to know about the PPP rules is that the government wants to and intends to allow us as business owners to claim a credit, so that this is not necessarily considered as income. But I'm sure any tax expert would say it has to be considered income so that you get the credit. We'll ask our tax expert that next week. Either way, the bill says that this is not supposed to be taxable. Now, the second thing to know is if you applied for and received the PPP loan the first time back earlier this year, you can still apply for the second round of PPP money. The third thing to know is that you have to have fewer than 300 employees. You have to show that your gross income reduced by 25%, whether it's the first, second, or third quarter, compared from 2020 to 2019. And the fourth thing to know about this PPP rules is that it's capped at $2 million. So you can't ask for more than that. I'm sorry to say, but if you need more than $2 million, you're probably not watching this video. The fifth thing to know about this is that it set aside $12 billion for minority-owned businesses. So that's good for the American people. They want to make sure that, essentially, with all these rules, they want to make sure that all this money doesn't go to the bigger companies, essentially, the bigger corporations that you've heard about in the first round of PPP. The next thing to know is that the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL, is back up to $10,000. This is geared for those who are gig workers, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals. Now, I believe it's more strict compared to last time, because you have to show a loss of greater than 30% from the period of March to December, specifically March 2nd, 2020 to December 17th, 2020. So, but any time during that period, it has to be an 8-week period that you show a 30% loss. There's several other requirements. We won't go through all of them right now, but the other thing to note is that you have to have been in business operating as a business January 31st, 2020. The other reason for that is because when we receive the Department of Justice e-newsletters into our inbox, almost every week there was a few stories about indicting a person or a company because it was a fake. They were committing fraud, getting PPP money, and they had created fake companies. So they have to have proof. Now we have to have proof to show that we were on operation on January 31st, 2020. The other thing to know about this law is it allocates $70 billion for vaccines in general, for purchasing, for distribution, and assistance for state testing and tracing programs, which was very critical. There wasn't any money for that last time. And another thing now is probably doesn't apply to you is $15 billion allocated for live venues, independent movie theaters, and cultural institutions. I'm really happy this bill was passed into law. There was a lot of talk that President Trump was going to veto it. So politics aside, it's in law. It's passed. So finally, Congress got something done, of course, at the very end of the year. But that's nothing new. That was very predictable. When we have a chance to read a good amount of the 5,500 plus pages, we will share more information about it, because last week there was a lot of talk of taxpayer money going to several countries for what they call national security purposes. So stay tuned until next week. And we really appreciate it if you can leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. If you are expecting more money, if you don't think Trump will actually be able to influence the Senate Republicans to increase it up to $2,000, let us know what your challenges are. Let us know what you like or don't like about the law. Until next time, please wear your mask. Friends, thank you for taking the time to watch our channel. Click over here so you can watch our most recent uploads. We'll see you soon.